Is that a digital signature? Yes? No. How many think the digital signature that you've scanned and placed on a Word document is a digital signature? Anybody of that opinion? Okay, and those who are not of that opinion, what is a digital signature? How does it differ from that you've scanned in and placed on a Word document? What is a digital signature? Yes, there is somebody with the microphone. Thank you.
You sign with a stylus pen on a certain interface that captures that.
Okay, you sign with a stylus pen. Okay. How secure is that signature thereafter?
I'm not sure how it is because I did it in a bank.
Okay.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
All right.
Clap.
Do you think the bank is able to use that signature after you've signed it on that paper?
It was not paper.
Oh, sorry, on the digital surface, yes.
It was an LED surface.
Yes. Is the bank
He's going to
able to
join us
use
now,
that signature
online,
afterwards?
like I said, he was to
I'm
come
not
physically,
sure.
but there are some issues
How
that
do you know
arose,
they are not using
the
it?
last minute, and
They
this
could.
has caused him to join us now in the online platform.
Is it a legally
but I'm
binding
sure even
signature?
as we bring him on board, you'll be able also to have more engagements
it's my
with him
signature
in the
because,
future. So thank you very much, Dr.
Legally
Ann.
binding? What
Is it legally binding in the sense that
online so that you can take over.
when you have given that signature with that stylus pen on the digital surface, and somebody afterwards places that onto a document, will that document be legally binding and attach you to whatever is listed in that document?
Okay, what I realized when I'm signing like that, I don't sign the normal way. You know, there's my signature on my ID card, but that one I just scroll something.
You scroll something.
So I don't think it would pass as my signature on any other document.
Okay, just to be able to differentiate, because they might actually place that onto some legally binding document.
Okay.
Okay, you've realized that there is a threat there. All right. So digital signing is actually so in Estonia the process is something that is a protocol. It's called Qualified Signature Creation Device, that is used where we use the chip-enabled security certificates that pass through a public key infrastructure. And it does not, so when you think of signatures, if you think all the way back when at some point in history somebody placed 3 X's at the bottom, that was considered a signature. So that's way back in history. When people didn't know how to write, very often a thumbprint was considered a signature. That's no longer considered a signature, right? Now we've gotten used to signing as a signature, but electronically that's not considered a signature. Electronically it consists of digits. It's a combination of the way you have your PIN to transact M-Pesa, the same way you would have a PIN that signifies your signature. So those are some of the important components to consider, so that when thinking of the digital environment, these are the things that one needs to consider. So when we are looking at Estonians issuing signatures on documents, so in Estonia, the normal signature, digital by default, is a digital signature issued using an ID card, a mobile ID, or a smart ID. And in Estonia, every now and then, when they communicate with the rest of the world, they need to be reminded that, sorry, I don't need a digital signature, I need an ink signature. Can you please give me an ink signature, which is like not the common thing to do? So what enables that? And so this is when we look at what's in the background of it. And so there is the data exchange, because clearly when you think of all the digital systems in order to do what we've just described, there are clearly all systems that are digital when it's digital by default. And so you might be now wondering, how do we ensure that there is efficiency and safety in these data exchanges? And in Estonia, we use X-Road. We've been using it since the year 2001. It's a software backbone that encrypts and transfers our data. It works like an open source highway for data traffic. X-Road interconnects public and private databases, which are held in a distributed manner. While every institution manages its own processes, government institutions can decide independently which platforms and technologies they use over X-Road. So, indeed, different authorities can choose different kinds of software and server infrastructures. What matters is that they are compatible with X-Road. This decentralized approach means that there is not one big super database, which would be extremely attractive to hackers. All data transfers are end-to-end point encrypted, and we can see that we are right on track because many other countries have gotten on board with our solution. Estonia shares its X-Road to a number of countries. And so one of the most frequently asked questions when it comes to our X-Road is, do you use blockchain? And in Estonia, the answer is yes. We've used a form of blockchain from the year 2008. 2008, had we heard about blockchain? So Estonia suffered the first ever cross-border international cyber attack in 2007. Russia launched a denial of service attack on Estonian cyber systems. And at that point in time already, we were able to withstand that attack. And from 2008, we have secured our government registries with blockchain. So we do not actually store personal data on blockchain, as that would really be a data protection and privacy nightmare. But all the data exchanges, all the communications, the data at rest, the log files are independently and fully accountable after the blockchain technology has been placed to secure them. So just to recap, from a security perspective, I need to play this video. Will the sound come through, hopefully? Because this explains a little bit more on the blockchain and X-Road activities and how logins occur. So let me just see if I play. Let's see.
Hello.
So when this just highlighted how within the course of this video that many hours were saved. In Estonia, because of the implementation of X-Road and digital interoperability and the digital infrastructure environments, Estonians save a whole 7 days in a year. So basically, Estonians don't have just 365 days in their year. They have an extra week to do whatever they want to do. For the government, the use of digital tools and interoperability saves the government 6% of the GDP. And 6% of Estonian GDP is also roughly what Estonia uses for defense. And so, in essence, because of the digital environments, Estonia gets its defense for free. Now, just to recap, so basically, from the security perspective, the model that Estonia uses is CIA triad, where Estonian information security relies on these combination of the three pillars, that is data confidentiality, data availability, and data integrity. And so with these central pillars, we've just looked at X-Road, we've talked about the blockchain that secures Estonian systems, and the various digital login systems that are used in order to securely log in and issue digital signatures. There is really no chance that a country can penetrate Estonian systems, as well as Estonia is a country that actually offers a very secure digital environment that attracts the population and also people from outside. And so this is when we will now come to actually the main essence of my conversation here today, having that background established. So when you remember on one of the first slides, there were all those various rankings. And so one of them, Estonia ranked #1 worldwide in the area of entrepreneurial activity. And it's easy to see why. From starting a company and declaring taxes to filing annual reports, you can do all of those efficiently without ever having to leave your couch or your armchair or your desk. It's really that simple. Where business is easy, businesses grow. And that's why Estonia is among the countries hosting the highest concentration of startups per capita. In Estonia, establishing a company takes around half an hour, though our record actually lies within 18 minutes. 18 minutes from the moment you decide to establish a company to having a fully registered operational company under which you can start issuing invoices. This had been the world record for quite a long time, actually, until Oman snatched our first place. How would Oman snatch first place from Estonia? Any ideas? Can Kenya snatch the first place from Estonia in the speed of registering a business? No. But how did Oman do that? Well, I'll have to point out that Estonian IT companies provided the solution to Oman. And so we can equally work with Kenya, and Kenya can beat Oman in this very, very simple activity. And so it's really the availability of online systems that are secure, as we looked earlier, which then allows also for running of companies in Estonia with very high efficiency. More than that, declaring taxes is incredibly simple. In Estonia, 96% of all income declarations are filed online. The main reason for this is that it takes around 3 minutes on an average to do it. In June, when you filed your iTaxes, did you take more than 3 minutes? 1 hour? Yeah, okay. Global average is an hour and a half normally. There are some that take 3-4 hours. Of course, you might need to engage an auditor at some time. In Estonia, it takes 3 minutes, and everything is pre-calculated because all the systems are interoperated over the X-Road. You just need to log into the tax portal, confirm the data, and if it turns out that you are entitled to a refund from the government, it takes usually 5 working days to get your tax refund from the government. Of course, e-residency is another important business factor. I will talk about e-residency also briefly. E-residency is a system that Estonia availed globally, and I'll tell you briefly about it a little bit later. But from e-residency, there are over 25,000 companies that are set up in Estonia, with the owners of the companies being anywhere across the world. And they have added about 20 million of taxes into Estonian government coffers in 2020 alone. Now, I want to talk about the Estonian startup ecosystem. And Estonia, well, based on the crowdsourcing database of Estonian startups, Estonian startups have signed 86 funding deals for almost 965 million euros in 2021. Now, let's think back. Estonia is roughly the size of Nakuru County, maybe smaller. What would 962 million euros look like when it was invested into Nakuru County? Couple of our well-known startups. Do you know Bolt? Do you know Bolt, the taxi hailing company? Have you used it? Okay, thank you for using an Estonian company. In August 2021, Bolt raised 600 million euros in the largest Baltic funding round. Additionally, several other Estonian startups have attracted large investments in 2021. It's basically when there's the picture of the unicorn. What does the unicorn mean? Anybody have any idea? Why is there that unicorn coming out of the self-driving vehicle? Any idea? What is it? Why is the unicorn there? Any hands? Okay, a unicorn is a startup company that has secured over 100 million funding, $100 million US funding into the company. And Estonia has the largest number of unicorns per capita. Estonia is the country, like I said, with the highest number of unicorns per capita since 2010. The vibrant startup economy in Estonia has raised a total of more than 3.5 billion euros. And the 10 unicorns have been founded by Estonians or have been founded in Estonia. And these are the likes of Skype. Maybe some of you have used Skype. Wise, used to be TransferWise, Verif, Galia, etc. And Startup Visa is something that Estonia uses to encourage startups from across the world to come to Estonia to establish their startups in Estonia and to hire non-European Union talent to do so. And so the byproduct of the support organizations of such is a strong give-back mentality within the network of startups. There are the mentors that support the next startups with entrepreneurs who have been active for more than 10 years in the startups. In the various Estonian startup events, the founders of Fortumo, Wise, Bolt, Starship Technologies, and Pipedrive, and so on, they are there to strengthen and support the people in the ecosystem through the leaders that have shaped the startup environment and given direction for such in the world. And so the Startup Estonia, which is one of the key support pillars for Estonian startups, it was initiated in 2015. And initially it was set up to support the structure of providing various structural support and to fund the startup environments. And it's called Estonian Mafia. Of course, we know the term mafia as something quite negative. Why we call it Estonian Mafia as the startups? It's because the way mafia supports one another, competes with one another, and at the same time then holds the attention of the world. The same way Estonian Mafia is the technology startups. And some of those that you see there, they all started within the structures of Startup Estonia. And looking at what are then some of the key features, how is it that Startup Estonia is able to provide support for the kind of funding that we've just talked about? And so, first and foremost, the Estonian startup environment relies on high-quality local talent that is available and well-educated. Estonia frequently ranks very highly in the international education benchmarks, such as PISA tests. The favorable economic and business climate in Estonia also has relatively low bureaucracy and is fully a digital business infrastructure, all the way including from founding the companies to banking, having digital contracts. And so in order to break some of those records in terms of establishing companies, it's necessary to have the digital tools to log into the digital environments. In the Estonian startup environment, when we talk of digital contracts, we also have smart contracts that are available digitally, that with any changes to any laws or legislation, these are automatically changed in the system. And these are available for creating all the founding documents for companies, for assigning shares, for bidding for various fundings. And so all these systems, including taxation, is something that is considered a favorable economic environment. Also, Estonia has a flat tax system, allowing companies to reinvest their profit tax-free, except when distributing dividends. So in order to support companies at their birth and growth, Estonia does not levy a corporate tax on companies when they reinvest the money back into the company, because that helps the company grow. It's only the corporate tax that is levied when taking out dividends. Also, one of the other key enablers is public sector innovation. And we'll look at some of that just shortly. Estonia has a strong history of publicly driven innovation, including the developments such as X-Road, Estonia State, which is the equivalent of e-citizen platform, e-residency, some of the most recent ones. And so these really accelerate the Estonian programs. Further, Estonia, due to its small domestic market of 1.3 million, is considered a test bed for mindset. A test bed mindset, which means that globally, any country that wants to test their solution, they can do that in Estonia before they scale large. And so Estonia has been the test bed for innovations and startups globally. Also, as I mentioned earlier, the close-knit community and the founder-to-founder approach in Estonian startup community that is very much down-to-earth, very brotherly, sisterly, very friendly, with some of the superhero founders supporting and inspiring newcomers, whether through hand-holding, mentoring, investment, or co-founding new startups. So these are some of the key enablers in the Estonian startup. And just so that we have a look through how Estonia in the 25 years, when we, among the first slides was how Estonia grew its per capita GDP. So we will look at the 25 years of the startup history of Estonia. And we will go through this quite quickly, as much as 25 years is quite long. But this, as we go through the timelines, you will notice the key components coming in from the public sector, the enabling steps that are taken by the public sector. You will see some of the superhero startups that we look at when they were founded, and they have become now unicorns, as well as the various funding players that come in. And so when it starts off in 1992, one of the very first earliest components was the science park. It allowed for tools for innovation in technology. And immediately thereafter, 1997 is one of the very critical components. And it is when Estonia rolled out internet connectivity to all schools and provided all schools with computers. And we call it the Tiger Leap because it was the Asian tigers who at that point in time seemed to be the most successful ones. And Estonia decided to leap ahead of them, took a tiger leap, and indeed we succeeded in doing what we intended to do. Because at this point in time, technology is used in all schools from kindergarten upwards. When you think of teaching computer programming, very often in schools here, now of course with CBC it has changed, but in Estonia, teaching programming languages is equivalent to teaching reading and writing in English. So in Estonia, the basic education is reading, writing, basic arithmetics, and computer programming. Those are the three first basic learning skills. And so the next science park was established at the Tallinn Technological University. And already in 1999, the very first startup that later on became one of the unicorns, Playtech, was established. It develops gaming software. I know many of you might be doing gaming now, but did you imagine that the very early gaming softwares were developed in 1999 already? And now we come to the very first public innovation. Estonian cabinet does not use any paper-based files. From the year 2000 onwards, all government documents are entirely digital, because that's the only way you can be certain that signature on a paper is not forged, because digital signatures cannot be forged. Then we mentioned X-Road, which allows for the interoperability, and the ID card for secure logins. Skype was founded in 2003. It was the first voice over internet protocol that was established by 4 young men in my hometown, Tartu, in Estonia, supported financially by entrepreneurs from Sweden. And so with that, the very first initial startup environments with international funding started to take place. Then Estonia established its own development fund specifically to support Estonian entrepreneurs. And then the various interventions now to start to build capacity, look for the strongest business ideas. And Next Startup starts 2007, and now we already see the ecosystem starting to build up with investors coming on board in 2009, and then the first hackathon started to take place. I'm sure there are also hackathons that take place here at your university. In Estonia, the hackathons are very much driven by the demand from the private sector. And then hackathons are created to respond to that demand. Garage 48 has organized events in 26 countries. They have also been here in Kenya to support the various hackathons. And the next startup that became a unicorn, Pipedrive, which is a sales software, was established. Now, this is when Startup Estonia starts to pilot activities under Enterprise Estonia before it was created, as it was created in 2014. And there we have the next TransferWise, which later on became WISE, being the international money transfer platform. E-residency, as I mentioned, is one of the ways in which globally people can take up e-residency, establish businesses in Estonia that need to have European Union, either European Union taxation systems or European Union quality marks. And then Startup Estonia is established with next startups that go in to become unicorns. And from 2015 onwards, you'll see every year there will be several hundreds of startups that start. What would 350 startups look like within Nakuru County? What would 408 startups look like? Another 500 startups. Every year, several hundred startups starting off. And I will say that one of the startup mindsets, very often people talk about young people not having jobs, isn't it? Young people don't have jobs. It's difficult to get jobs. In Estonia, people don't look for jobs. In Estonia, people look for work. Looking for a job means that you want somebody else to pay you for doing what you are equipped to do. Looking for work means you look for opportunities to establish something new and provide employment for others who are not as well equipped to think, be innovative, and be ingenious. So, in Estonia, young people go out there with the intention of creating jobs, not looking for jobs. Being able to create work for yourself is one of the key mindsets of startup. And so there we have Next Startup setting up. We have more angel networks coming on board. We have further startups. And then at this point in time, already Enterprise Estonia, together with Startup Estonia, starts to establish these databases. Databases to accelerate growth, databases to provide reference to startups for them to be able to secure support and funding. And quickly looking at what are the core activities that Startup Estonia does for its members. And so, first and foremost, it is to provide the support within the startup ecosystem. Build a community, create the events. The events are, there are a number of workshops, there are a number of hackathons, there are a number of brainstorming, fundraising, various events and activities that provide the strength for the community in startup. And the training, this is where a lot of mentorship comes in from already existing startup leadership, and also to educate investors. Because in order for investors to invest into startups, they need to understand why it is such a unique opportunity, what to look out for, and how to fund startups in a way that it's a win-win for all. And then, of course, create the enabling environment also from the legal framework in order to support more startups to come in, like, for example, the startup visa, because very often it's difficult to get a residence permit within European Union, within the Schengen area, but the startup visa is quite unique. It allows to import workforce into European Union and be able to build the startup environments. And I promised to talk to you about e-residency. So Estonia started this project in 2014, and with this it became the first and still actually the only country in the world to establish global e-residency. E-residency is perfect for people who want to set up business, like maybe some of you here. Be it either to own their own freelance business, to create jobs, to create something bigger than you are currently. And at this point in time, Estonia has e-residents from 160 countries across the world, which is the biggest global reach of such a target group. And more than 25,000 companies have been created in Estonia by e-residents, contributing about 32 million to Estonian taxes. All you need to create a company in Estonia is an e-residence card and an EU bank account. And there are many other financial service providers that are more than happy to help you to set up the basics. And yeah, so just as I mentioned, e-residency allows you to give digital signatures that are legally binding, just like Estonians do. And that's one of the main reasons why there are so many people who use e-residency to create companies, to sign signatures. Just to give you a sense of the reach of e-residency. So Estonian population is 1.3 million. Our capital population is 500,000. Our second largest city, the population is 100,000. We have currently 93,000 e-residents. E-residency has created our third largest city. This is innovation because Estonia is one of the countries, like many other countries in Europe, where populations are not growing. And in order for us to boost our economy, in order for us to grow our country's reach, we have a third largest city that is not residing in Estonia and contributes 32 million to the taxes. So we've talked about X-Road, but one of the things when it comes to the favorable economic environment to establish businesses is the efficiency of taxation. And one of the components that was also on the first slide is Estonia ranks #1 in tax competitiveness index. And when we talk about taxes and being #1 in tax competitiveness index, it doesn't mean that Estonia is tax-free. No, not at all. What it means is that Estonia is having very much a flat tax rate. What it means is that because of the interoperability, every person is known and every person pays taxes. If you imagine in Kenya where I think with a fair estimate, there are maybe about 30% of those who should pay taxes who pay taxes. And those 30% feel that they are overtaxed, isn't it? Now, if you imagine that not only the 30% pay taxes, but 99% pay, what impact would that have on the taxes of those individuals who are currently paying? So in Estonia, this is basically one of the central things when it comes to e-taxes. And so X-Road is one of the central features in it. It lends its particular services to such situation where lots of information from a lot of different government authorities is required. One perfect example is the tax form. Thanks to the aforementioned data exchange, most tax forms are already pre-populated. If you imagine that you get your, you go into the e-tax and all the figures are already filled in. You don't need to start to calculate your figures. Everything is already filled in. And that is because the government already has the end-to-end look on all transactions that take place. And so for you, it's just a mouse click to confirm. And so income tax declarations was actually one of the very first online services that Estonia established in 1999, because many people were already used to using online banking, and going on to e-tax system promised that those who would submit their taxes online would get their refunds more quickly than those who did it on paper. And so that basically allows for faster response as well as faster return. And as I'm winding down, just a couple of more interesting things about Estonia. So what you're looking at the screen there is the equivalent of a boda boda, delivering your goods. In Estonia, we have self-driving vehicles, both in the form of buses that are on the city streets, as well as little delivery robots. And so that little delivery robots, there are many, many of them across our cities that do delivery services. They are basically part of what we consider some of the smart city components. And so it's really one of the hottest topics very often globally when it comes to autonomous vehicles. And so Estonia realized quite early on that issue, and so for that purpose, Estonia actually looked out for various cooperation partners. And as a result, Tallinn and Helsinki, the capital of Finland, have set up a shared public transport ticketing solution, which is also working on plans to construct various tunnels. So the infrastructure goes hand in hand with technology. And the semi-autonomous solutions have been active on our roads since 2017. These include self-driving buses, delivery robots that make our lives as humans easier and more fun. If you imagine that in Tallinn streets, very often the little delivery robots create their own little traffic jams on street corners. And so we actually have the most self-driving vehicles per capita. And the moving vehicles also create a lot of data points, and for that reason Estonian cities are focusing on offering more data and more open data that could be used for various purposes. One good example is the accident map, which helps city planners structure potential changes to traffic flows, as well as converting crossings into roundabouts. And so digitalize everything. It really is a journey that never ends. One of the stories, it's an old historic story that is told about our capital, Tallinn. Our capital, Tallinn, is located on the shores of Baltic Sea, and it also has a freshwater lake. And our capital, Tallinn, is one of the cities from the medieval times that has a city wall around it with a mount, with the huge gates. And so there is a folk story that says that every year an old man from the lake, so a mythological creature, would come up to the city gates and ask the guard at the gate, "Is Tallinn city ready? Has it been completed? The towers are here. Is it ready?" And the guard would say, no, there is still construction going on there, and we're building that. And every year after year, this mythological man from the lake keeps coming to Tallinn city and asking, "Is the city ready?" And so after many, many years, eventually the guard asks the mythological creature, "But why are you asking me every year, is the city ready?" And the mythological creature said, "Well, we people of the lake, we want to drown the city. And so we're waiting until it's ready so we can drown it. And so for that reason, our capital never gets ready." And in very many ways, the digital society is similar. Everything, it just keeps going. So when most governments discuss digitalization and online services, they talk about more traditional areas that in Estonia are considered standard already. That is tax declarations, registration of employment, and others. However, the closer you get to digital maturity, the more your engineers, politicians, and thought leaders will come up with small niche services that solve a particular problem, but also serve to drastically improve the quality of life for the citizens. For example, Estonians can go to the state forestry web portal to register to cut down a Christmas tree from the state forest. That way, citizens get a nice, fresh Christmas tree, and the state forestry agency can keep track of where the trees might have been cut down and have to be replanted. So when we think of the forests in Kenya, if every tree that needs to be cut down, you first go online and record, "I'm cutting down this tree." And then having the systems to know, "Oh, that tree was cut down, we need to replenish that tree plus 2, hopefully." Or when you can update your digital fishing license or hunting license, or where reporting of crimes is direct on the website of the police, and so on and so forth. So as you can see, really, digitalization never ends. There is always something new. Solutions need to be created, improvements that save money for the society, save time, save the energy and the nerves. I will just briefly touch on as well financial crime, because when we think of many of the startups that you might be having in mind, many of the enterprises that you might want to start, many of them, your thought is, what about all the criminals that are out there just waiting to take my money? And so financial crime remains one of the most pressing challenges. Currently, there are less than 1 to 2% of this money that is successfully captured. Despite the increasing number of new anti-money laundering regulations introduced by European Union and the global regulators, and the business increasing still the spending on crime prevention. So the main reason for this is that organized crime networks operate across multiple financial institutions, across borders, across legal jurisdictions, while individual banks or fintechs haven't historically had the ability to share vital financial crime relevant information, either with each other or with the law enforcement agencies, to both successfully identify and prosecute financial crime. And I think these are some of the things that we relate to here in Kenya, with many of us falling victim for various forms of financial crime. Estonia is no different and has faced similar challenges, being in the center of some of the significant money Estonia is money laundering scandals in 2018. But as with any other challenge the country has faced, cyber attacks in 2007, like I mentioned, Estonia's response to this from the entire financial community has been nothing short of an inspiration. As an agile digital nation, Estonia has transformed these anti-money laundering challenges into success stories and is leading the new way of global crime fighting by building industry-wide global collaborations for anti-crime networks. And so in October 2020, a path-breaking new initiative was launched in Estonia in a bid to combat growing rates of financial crime. And these saw the leading banks of Estonia coming together. And while in the past they used to take 1 to 2 days for the banks to process incoming requests from other banks, today most urgent requests take 18 minutes to handle, with most cases taking within 2 hours. And so this kind of speed and efficiency and the technology background to it has seen major changes to Estonian banks being able to withstand money laundering. Finally, artificial intelligence. Any of you thinking of going into the business that involves artificial intelligence? Any ways in artificial intelligence that has impacted your day-to-day? I'll tell you briefly about Estonian use of artificial intelligence. Estonia has had already a national strategy on artificial intelligence from the year 2020. And it's called Krat. Krat is actually an Estonian mythological creature. We are very attached to our culture and we bring it into our digital world. We don't think that being modern and digital means that we leave our mythologies and culture behind. And so Krat is the term that is used in AI in Estonia. And so it's the strategy has the general objective to have at least 50 use cases of artificial intelligence in the public sector. The government has launched an expert task force led by the government office and the government CIO. And at this point in time, there are quite a number already. There is the Estonian Information System Authority in Estonia that uses machine learning to detect anomalies and incidences in the traffic of that X road that we talked about. Predictive analytics is used to detect where to send the police for traffic regulation. The system is well used in cities. However, the algorithm doesn't still work in rural areas, for example. The Estonian Unemployment Insurance Fund matches job seekers with open positions using AI. It helps job seekers to get matched with the right job. The current job matching algorithm is developed further, with job seekers' profile being also built into the algorithm. Estonian Agriculture Research and Registry Information Board is using machine learning to detect lawn mowing Satellite images are analyzed to detect whether agricultural land has been mowed, as it's necessary to make sure that the government grants are allocated only to the appropriate agricultural practices. Just to mention a few, as well as the transcription of emergency calls by Estonian Emergency Response Center with AI solutions used to transcribe all the calls that are made. And with this, I will actually ask for any of your questions, for any of your thoughts, because in the area of startups, as speaking from the Estonian startup environment, we're always stronger together. I welcome questions. The gentleman with the mic.
All right, thank you very much for the wonderful presentation. Allow me to ask one question on how do you link education system, which Estonia is using, with your digital work which the country is putting in place?
Okay, I think I'll take a couple of questions and then answer them all in unison.
Thank you for such an excellent presentation. My name is Elton. The idea of startups, I was a little bit mesmerized, for lack of a better word. You say that registration or registering a business organization or a company will take about 18 minutes. I'm sure some of my colleagues thought it's 18 days. Now, then I'm reminded of, I was trying to register a business organization, a charity-based organization, and it almost took me up to 42 days around Sharia House trying to fix things here and there with the registrar of societies. And now, the current statistics are that startups in Kenya, the failure rate is up to 80%. Now, looking at that failure rate of startups, is it that the authorities or the government can as well be an impediment in terms of ensuring success for even registering for these startups? Perhaps I would invite your comment on that. And then the interesting part that I also found very interesting indeed is the idea of use of robotics to do deliveries. And I was mirroring this in our own Kenyan situation, where we have cities and towns that have a lot happening in the night. The issue that we have is that if the robotics are successful in delivering this, does it, I'm thinking that we really have to do a lot in terms of the infrastructure so that this will work. Otherwise, we'll have situations where the robot will go and it may not come back after one delivery. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam. You were very comprehensive in taking us through the presentation. Actually, very interesting. I wish we could get some of it in our laptops. Your Excellency, the people you see behind me actually forms 80% of Kenyan population, 23 years of age and below. Actually, 19 to 23, that's the average Kenyan age. A startup would need some seed capital either from inheritance, from loans, or maybe from some angel. Ask them, they have small startups, which when, the seed capital is so low, such that in situations of calamities, they consume everything, and the whole business is ended within a day. How would you help? Or how would they learn from Estonia about getting loans to start something, while they are just university students who have just graduated? In fact, there are pounds to so many microfinances that are taking everything, including what you have. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. My name is Peter from School of Science, Engineering and Technology. First, I appreciate the technology, the blockchain technology. I'm surprised that in Estonia you started 2002. In Kenya, it's from 2018. That's when we started to appreciate about the blockchain. Actually, here in Kabarak, the PhD students so far started in 2021 for blockchain. So I really appreciate that. And also, I also appreciate the technology of artificial intelligence very well indeed, which is going to take us very far. So I really appreciate that. Now my question is, or the line of appreciation is in the blockchain. Yeah, in blockchain, if it is going to work the way it is working in Estonia, do we really need the auditors in future? Do we really need the auditors in future? Because we can be able to share all the information required on the platform. Of sharing, and will be very clean. The other one, still on the blockchain, is on Ethereum or cryptocurrencies. Don't know how far in Estonia the Ethereum have really integrated the blockchain to be able to give us the digital business, which is the highest at the time for the Bitcoin and others. Because I think in the country we are a bit lost. When you talk about a Bitcoin and then you talk about the blockchain, the people do not know exactly what is it. But we are aware that it is working very well, and the technology in future is about that. I will not talk about, because my friend have talked about artificial intelligence, but there is that fear in future that the machines may take over all the work of the human being and we'll be left with nothing to do. Or the AI overtakes what we think that we can do as human beings and will be done by the machines. That's very dangerous for us, I think so. Thank you.
Maybe I'll respond to these, and then we'll take maybe a few more. All right. So how does Estonian education relate to its digital prowess? And so this is where, number one, children start to make use of technology from kindergarten upwards. And I think one of the key differences is where in Kenyan schools there is very often the notion that children should not bring their devices to school. There should be a limit to how much children use laptops or tablets. There is very often the fear that they will be spoiled by the use of these devices. And so very often it's called a device, but I will call it a tool. They are digital tools because they are actually the ones that enable the children to integrate their working, thinking into the digital environments. And so I do know that one of the main concerns is, what do they use these devices for? And indeed, if all they use the devices for is to watch TikTok, then it's not helpful. But if they actually use the devices or the tools, the digital tools for learning, when there is the digital curriculum content available, then these become central learning tools. In Estonia, the curriculum content has been available for interactive learning in digital learning environments from 2015 onwards. And so when schools use digital tools in their learning parallel with textbooks, is because it allows for efficiency, it allows for self-verifying exercises. Like, for example, let me give you, I don't know if there are any of you who are learning education here, but very often teachers are overwhelmed by the amount of marking that they need to do of children's work. It's a very routine, it's a very mundane kind of activity. And so when the teacher, if you imagine the teacher did not need to do any marking, that the system marked all the work, and the teacher was able to put their full attention to teaching. Because the teacher's job is to teach. Marking of work is really not what the teacher is maybe ideally placed for. And so in Estonia, the teacher doesn't need to mark the work. All their time is spent with teaching and using a variety of tools for that. Now, so startups and their failure rates. And so for that, I would need to actually connect to the internet, because I want to show you the various stages to startups. One moment, let me just, let me see if I still have that page open. Mm-hmm. I think I need to connect to internet to show you that. One moment, let me just connect myself to internet, because startups have a scientific approach. A startup has its phases, it has its stages, and these are appropriate to where they are at. And with that, there are particular structures to support what they are doing. It's not just a haphazard manner of being able to register a business and then hope it somehow miraculously succeeds. So I want to show you what the Estonian startup ecosystem provides for startups, depending on the stage that the startup is at. So while this is loading, you can see that a startup actually goes through 4 stages. There is first, there is the first to have the mindset. Even before you start to set up the startup, you need to have the thinking of a startup. And so at this phase, in Estonia, there are a number of systems that support this kind of thinking and mindset. And so these are ideal when you're a student. Maybe you've heard of startups and you're looking at the various options. You know, how do I get started? What do I need to do? And so in Estonia, there are all the various, now what you're looking at here are the list of organizations, companies, structures that are there specifically to support even before you've gotten yourself registered as a business. This is the point at which you start to learn things in order to become a startup. Setting up a business is one of the learning components in Estonian schools. So if we go back here and we look at this again, so the next is pre-startup. So after the mind setup, there is the pre-startup. That's when you have an idea and you think the idea is innovative, it's scalable, it's something that you think is really viable. And so at this point in time, yes, you might need some resources to fund your very early prototype. This is not even a minimum viable product, this is the prototype. And you're looking at, how can you get funding to create that prototype and what kind of mentorship do you have available? And so again, for that, in Estonia, there is a list of organizations that are available to support somebody who is in this phase. And so if we go back and look at again, so this is when now eventually you can say that you are a startup, because I think very often in Kenya, people register their company when, according to the startup timeline, they actually maybe just in the mindset, they are thinking, they are not yet where they can be considered a startup. And a startup phase is when now you actually you've gone from the prototype and you have your minimum viable product. And so this is when now you've already signed your shareholder agreements. This is the point at which you register a company and now you're starting to look for investors. But the minimum viable product, why it's called a minimum viable product is because it's viable. It's already proven that it has an uptake by the market. So from the prototype to the minimum viable product, here you are still trying to test, is there a need for whatever I'm thinking that is innovative, that is interesting, that there should be a need for in the market. And so in a startup mindset, one of the critical things there is the concept of bootstrapping. The concept of bootstrapping is you really don't put in any big money until you have a viable product. If you don't have a viable product, you are sinking money that you really don't have a proof that it will become anything. And so, again, at this phase, when now you've built you've got your idea, you've built your prototype, you've tested your prototype. From prototype, you moved into the minimum viable product. And this is the phase at which you would look for an angel investor, because they now have something to invest in. Until then, it was just an idea. Angel investors don't invest in ideas. They invest when it is a viable product, when there is proof of it. And at this point in time, when you have a minimal viable product, you're welcome to join Startup Estonia. And you can get your angel investors in Estonia, because the Estonian startup environment is robust. It has been vetted, proven, and international angel investors are ready to come and put the millions and billions that are needed there. And so, looking again, and so at that point in time, you are still a startup, and so scale up is really where the main money is. You don't become what we call a member of the Estonian mafia. There is an Estonian mafia board. Basically, the amount of people you employ, the kind of returns you have, the taxes that you pay, that's what gives you the honors to be on Estonian mafia board. And so when you now scale up, when now you have traction on the ground, that is again, we have all the various support systems, both mentorship as well as funding, as well as networks available for that. So when looking at one, the young population, and two, the startups, where there is a lot of failure, it's likely that the steps are not followed. It's likely that money is sunk in too early. And indeed, when there is not much of mentorship that is available, it's very difficult to do something that hasn't been done before. I will then come to the aspects of robotics, and so this is, and I'll combine it together with the machines and humans and who takes over work from who. So Estonia being as digital as it is, and all the government structures being digital, very often the question I get is, but doesn't that create unemployment? It's quite to the opposite. Estonia is one of the countries that is actively looking for people from globally to come and work in Estonia, because we have created more work by being a digital society, by the startups that are set up in Estonia. We have more work available in Estonia than we have people to do that work. And so maybe the work is different than the kind of work that is available in less digital societies. It is, but there is work being created all the time in Estonia. And so will machines take over from humans? I think there are already some countries that have established that since there is a lot of work that is being done indeed by machines, human beings don't need to work 5 days in a week. Human beings can work 4 days in a week and have more time to be with families, to do things that they enjoy doing. And it doesn't mean that they need to take a pay cut because human beings still do the work. There are some countries that have already started to do what is considered a social payment. There are some people who get paid for being human. The fact that they are not a machine, they get paid for that. So I think the future is interesting. It's not a game of win or lose. I think it's a game of win-win. Let me just see. All right, and so so the robotics and the infrastructure. So yes, of course, there needs to be a good condition of roads for some of the vehicles to move, like the ones with the very small wheels. But at the very same time, there is security that they have. They are being, of course, monitored on the various 4G, 5G networks. They have cameras attached in order to access them. One needs to log in with the mobile ID or the ID card in order to retrieve any of the packages, things like that. Blockchain and audits. So indeed, there are some aspects of forensic audits that one would say that are unnecessary in a system where everything is digital, everything is verifiable. And I would actually even go further and say that when normally it takes an average of 6 months to detect any data breaches, be it in the banks, be it in the government systems. In Estonia, it takes 3 seconds to detect an attempt. In Estonia, it's not possible to actually achieve a data breach. We invite hackers internationally to try and break into our government systems. We have rewards available. Unfortunately, those rewards have not been paid out. So in Estonia, there's the blockchain that secures the systems, but then there are further tools to, because the weakest point in any technology system is still the human being. And when a system is created in a weak manner, it can still allow for such bridges. But in Estonia, there are systems that detect the human errors in the system. And well, I would say that the way encryption of any materials, even when being sent between two human beings, is common, is basically the kind of protocols. And on cryptocurrency, so Estonia strongly supports cryptocurrency. Estonian banks are able to trade in cryptocurrency. And I have heard some conversation of the Central Bank of Kenya actually considering its own cryptocurrency. And indeed, it would be one of the key tools to have more accountability, traceability of funds, because I think quite differently from Bitcoin, that is traded in a way that nobody knows who gets what, which is the common knowledge about it, yet because it has digital traceability, the reality is that cryptocurrency is by far easier to trace than the currency notes that are in your pocket currently. So I think I've responded to these ones. I don't know if there's time for more.
Well, let's put our hands together again and let's appreciate her for her very good delivery. Very insightful, very informative. We never can exhaust this, particularly in the question area. We may spend a whole day here answering. There will be so much that we'd like to have in terms of getting details. But what we have received so far and the questions that she has answered, I would want to believe that we have covered quite a bit of ground in that area. We've been here, and this is our 5th hour since we got in here, and it will be better to put a comma at this and pick it up some other time. And with this, then, I would like to invite Madam Dr. Miriam Muga, the Acting Director, Research, Innovation and Outreach, to come and move a vote of thanks and do the necessary important thing that you're aware of. So please come over and let's do this.
Thank you very much, Dr. Waiganjo, for giving me this opportunity so that I can be able to give vote of thanks. I believe each one of us here as conference participants have been able to appreciate the kind of presentations that we have had so far. And first of all, I want to take this opportunity to give our Almighty God thanks for, first of all, giving us life and a chance to witness this particular conference. We are here to attend the 12th Annual International Research Conference on Business and Economics. I also want to thank our keynote speaker, Her Excellency Kadri Humal Ayan, for that insightful presentation about Estonia. I believe as we sit here, I only saw 5 hands up of people who have a little bit of information with regards to Estonia. But from her presentation, we have been able to learn more about Estonia, as well as to see how far a country can be able to go with digitalization. And some of the questions that I had while she was presenting, I was just wondering, what is it that we can be able to do as a country to get to where Estonia is? They recently got their independence, re-independence. And their GDP then is equivalent to the GDP of Kenya 59 years after independence. What do we have to say about that? What is it that Estonia did that Kenya cannot be able to do? We have educated people in our country. Is that not true? Is that not true? We have people who have minds to innovate. That is the reason as to why Kabarak is here to train students. And how many of them have graduated from the School of Business and Economics? How many of us are aware of the different kind of startups that are there only in the year 2002? I will confess, I had to Google up to see. I thought I understood what a startup is, but I had to go back and check to find out how many people are creatively beginning businesses. We are not training, we are not here to train people to go out there to begin putting on a suit. Mine might not be as good, but to put on a suit, to tarmac Kenyan roads looking for employment. But we are training people so that they can be creative to innovate, to begin business startups. I think for the School of Business and Economics, you are greatly challenged by this presentation. And you need to begin now. Yesterday is gone, but you have been given a new day, a new chance, a new opportunity for you to rethink what you do in the School of Business and Economics and how you can be able to improve our economy. Tomorrow, I want to leave Kabarak and seek employment from one of our students who have been able to have a startup. And Her Excellency has extended her arm. You can be able to engage with the startup, opportunities that are there in Estonia. Let's think about how we can turn our country around. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for that well-presented speech or presentation. All right, we are greatly challenged. We also want to thank our Vice Chancellor, Professor Henley Kiplagat, although in absentia, for the opening speech that he gave. And indeed, he told us to be here. He told us to be here so that we can learn how to improve our country, how to invest, how to grab the opportunities that are available so that we can be able to have economic growth. We also want to thank our DVC Academics and Research, Professor Chola. I know he was in. He has just stepped out, for the support that he has given us, as well as for the Vice Chancellor and all the other management, people in management, for the support they have given us so that we can even be able to sit here to attend this 12th annual Research International Conference. We also want to thank our Registrar Academic, Dr. Anthony Somba, who is present with us here, our Registrar, Admin and HIL, Professor Simon Kipchumba, and all the deans, the lecturers, and students who have taken their time off duty to come and grace this conference. I thank you, and I continue to challenge us students as well as staff to take seriously the presentations that are going to be presented in this conference, because that might just be the first step towards the turning point that we need to make Kenya propel in ensuring economic growth. At this juncture, I want to take an opportunity to present a small gift, a small token, to Her Excellency, Her Excellency Kadri Human Ayal, for taking her time to travel and to be able to be here physically. She would have decided to do this virtually, but she said she has to come to Nakuru, she has to come to Kabarak University, so that she can be able to tell you face to face that this thing is possible, and educate you on the steps to beginning a what? A startup. We really appreciate. So I'd just like to take one moment. Juncture, I want to hand over the program to the moderator. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Miriam Muga, for leading us through that very important session. We have come to the close of this, but before we leave, I would ask our chaplain, Assistant Chaplain, Nakuru Town Campus, Reverend Laban Kitoni, to come, and I'll request all of us to stand as he prays for us before we leave.
Thank you very much, Director. After the prayer, we will say the grace together. Our God and our Father, we continue to worship and praise your holy name this afternoon. We thank you that in your own plan, you want to prosper us. You want us to enjoy life here before we enjoy even in heaven. And Lord, we thank you because of the various gifts that you've given each one of us, gifts of innovation. And Father, we know that we are heavily endowed on the things that can better our lives and the lives of others. We want to thank you that the presentations that we have had today will go in a long way in re-energizing us and igniting each one of us to do something to better this world. We want to speak a blessing upon the presenters of today, that Lord, you may continue to give them wisdom even as they educate others. More so, we want to continue bringing this school under your able hands,
that, Lord, you may help our students to put into practice even that which they have learned today. We thank you for the organizers. We thank you for each and every one of us who has made this day a success. And Lord, it is our prayer that even as we end our session, may you disperse us with your blessings, O Lord. For those who are traveling far and near, we ask that, Lord, you may give us safety and continue to bind us with your love. May you, O God, be with us until we meet again. For we pray with thanksgiving in Jesus' name. Amen. And now, may the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ and the love of God and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with us now and forevermore. Amen. Enjoy your afternoon and God bless you.
For staff. For staff, and we have lunch out here. Please, for staff, we have lunch out here, please.